is coming in.
Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Nina, an artist living in the desert of Arizona on a mission to reclaim my independence by selling 2,000 cyanotype prints. In today's video, I am sharing with you my love affair in blue, the story of how I became a printmaker and fell in love with the process of cyanotypes. My journey as a printmaker started in college during a history of photography class with a professor who had a bit of a reputation for being a very challenging individual. He was a stern critic and he had zero tolerance for tardiness. I can speak, I swear. And so much so that he would lock the classroom door. So right when the class started, he would lock the door. So if you were late, if you were running a few minutes behind, you weren't getting into class that day. It just wasn't happening. But his demeanor aside, he was honestly one of my favorite teachers there at Brooks, and he really believed that history wasn't just about the facts. It had to be felt and experienced. I'll honestly never forget the day I walked into a pitch black classroom. He had blocked out all of the light source, and I believe he'd even covered the windows with cardboard and blackout curtains, and he set up a table in the corner with chemicals and paper and brushes. And you gotta understand, this is a room full of modern photography students. We had zero content for what was coming next. None of us had ever even set foot in a dark room, so we had no idea what we were about to experience. And that day, we got to experience what it felt like to create something with our own hands, using a brush, a bit of science, a bit of sunlight. I left class feeling very inspired that day and just feeling like there was so much potential. And it would honestly be years later before that little seed of inspiration took root. It would blossom during my final semester at Brooks when my fiance and I had made the decision to become voluntarily homeless. We had been scrimping and saving, and we had managed to save up enough for tuition, but rent was just it was just not happening. So we had this crazy idea that we would camp. And during this time, I hit a wall. You know, Brooks was known to be a very demanding, very perfectionistic type of curriculum, and I was just looking for something fun, something that didn't have to be so perfect. And I remembered that class. I remembered that feeling of potential and feeling like there was so much I could do with that. So I taught myself how to build a digital negative. And one night in the woods of Ojai at midnight, I coded my first set of Cyanotype prints. Let me paint you a picture. So there's me and my fiance in a tent that is pitch black, trying to coat paper with a light sensitive solution blind, while also, of course, trying not to get the chemicals on our sleeping bag, the tent, ourselves. And we had turned off all of the lights because at this point, I hadn't been printing long enough to know that cyanotypes could be coated in dim light. So I thought it had to be done in absolute zero darkness, and it was chaos. And it's where it all began. Eventually my dad let us crash on his couch in Norwalk, so we would make this 2-hour drive, you know to get out of the tent and you know to make these print runs where we would set up a makeshift dark room in his kitchen. And he was so kind enough to let us do this, but he did have one request, very fair request. He didn't want to accidentally drink the chemical solution, so he said we had to label them. But it was in that kitchen and in the tent that I created my first cyanotype series known as Beautifully Imperfect. It was a series of cyanotypes inspired by, both the process and newborns. And this experience, it really kind of changed me as an artist. I remember it was the first time that I got to touch my work, that I got to embed myself in the process. And it just became this beautiful dance, this beautiful love affair. And, you know, through all the chaos that was Brooks and camping and learning how to print, I honestly, I really discovered who I was as an artist. Cyanotypes really gave me that way to not only touch my work, but to imbue each print with a sense of myself. It became honestly more than a process. It became a ritual, a dance between digital and tactile, and a collaboration with fate. No two prints are alike, and that's honestly part of the magic, part of the charm. Looking back, it is incredible to see how far I've come since, you know, those late nights, you know, in the tent and destroying my dad's kitchen. But cyanotypes really, they changed me, both as an artist and as a person. It's no longer just about the blue, it's about the unpredictability, the magic that unfolds when something comes to life. And as I continue on my journey and my mission to reclaim my independence by, I don't know, sharing my art, I'm reminded of why I started, why I became a printmaker. And, you know, I think it was because I just believed in the beauty of imperfection, and I fell in love with that magic of creating things that just felt true to who I am as a person. And I think that's why I'll always come back to my love affair in blue. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this love affair in blue. If you like this style of content, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I would love for you to join me on this journey of discovering and see where it takes us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might love it too. Every bit of support helps me get one step closer to my mission of selling 2,000 prints and reclaiming my independence. If you want to check out my work, you can visit my website. The link's in the description. Even if you can't buy right now, leaving a comment or sharing my content means the world to me. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.